Now, as you guys know, I just got rid of my Ninja H2. It was very big, it was very fast, and it was very expensive. And that was one of the main reasons I got rid of it. So that leaves me without a sport bike. And while I'm not on the market right this second for another sport bike, there's more than a few that I've been really interested in riding. One of them being this absolutely beautiful 2019 Ninja 636. This is a bike that I've been very interested in riding, and today we're going to ride it. But before we hop on the motorcycle, let me ask you guys something. Have you ever wanted to create music before? Would you like to make lo-fi, hip-hop? What the best live at hard bass? If that sounds cool to you, you need to check out Beatmaker Go. Making beats is easy, fun, and available to everybody. Using our application, you can create your future hit. And the cool thing is, everyone can try it themselves, and you don't need to have professional equipment or a studio. You can choose from a variety of genres like hip-hop, house, EDM, and even Slovak hard bass. You can create beats on the go. It's also available on the Google Play and Apple Store on Android and iOS. Transform party into real life by connecting phone to the speakers and mixing few beats. If this looks cool to you, here's what you gotta do. Support my channel and download the Beatmaker Go app for free right now. Links are like in the description, you know, pretty per usual. So you can make epic music and depress in a hard bass. Seriously, all joking aside, pretty cool app. I've been having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, check it out. Now let's check out the bike. I headed down to my favorite motorcycle store, Wow Motorcycles in Marietta, Georgia, where they let me borrow and review just about any motorcycle of their absolutely ridiculous inventory. They got like 600 bikes on hand at all times. Now Wow has had more than one of these brand new 636s come through the shop, and I've been dying to ride one. I will state that I am a little bit more biased to Kawasaki. They're a company that I really enjoy. However, I wasn't quite ready for how good this 636 was going to be. Naturally, when I think of 600cc sport bikes, I go back to my original 600cc sport bike, the Honda CBR F4i. When I think of like 600 power, that's what I go to in my head, despite every other bike nowadays having tons more power. My girlfriend's got a Gixxer 600, and despite it being a Gixxer, is an incredibly awesome bike. It's nimble, it's lightweight, it's got more than enough power, and overall it's not too bad to ride on. So I've been tossing the idea around of going back to a 600cc sport bike, even after having the H2 for so long. This was the first bike on my list of 600cc sport bikes to review. Notoriously, and I think I speak for a lot of us here, when a next generation of a motorcycle or a car is released, I generally have an moment, where for the most part I see it and I go, they release a new car like the Corvette, or new motorcycle like the new CBR 1000 RR, and then I say to myself, I don't know. But here's the thing, as time goes on, I like them more and more. That was not the case with the 636. Right away, I found this bike absolutely gorgeous. Styling is 100% a personal preference. There are a ton of people out there who look at the Hayabusas or like the ZX14s or whatever this thing is, and they go, oh wow, I can't wait to look at that all day, every day. Beauty is purely speculative. But right away, I saw this bike in this color, and I'll be honest, I got rock hard. The styling, the lines, everything, minus the mirrors, gets me absolutely randy. So I asked Wow if I could borrow this thing, and they said, yeah, duh, like, this isn't new. So I rode it around for a bit, got a good feel for it, and spoiler alert, it's so freaking good. God, this is an excellent bike. This is a perfect example of how Kawasaki can turn a 600cc sport bike and make it feel like it's got the power of a 1000. This is easily the best 600cc sport bike I've ever ridden personally. Let me throw that disclosure in there for anybody who's watching this. This is based off of my personal riding experience. No, I'm not a track day bro. I'm not a street Rossi. Generally speaking, I ride for pleasure. But buckle up and I'll tell you exactly why I really enjoy this bike and why I think it's one of the best 600cc sport bikes in the world right now. Let's get the most annoying thing out of the way first. Let's talk about power. I say the most annoying thing because when people think of sport bikes, they think of power only. Yeah, sport bikes equal power. This bike is 100% stock, goes the factory exhaust and clutch levers and all that good stuff, and has just a little bit over 200 miles on the odometer. That's not even really past break-in point.
Oh my god, just get to the horsepower numbers, that's all I care about.
Kawasaki not too long ago brought back the 636. I mean, they're calling it a ZX6R, not a ZX636R, but you know, who's counting? See, for a while Kawasaki produced the 636, then they called it the ZX6R, then they brought the 636 motor back, but relabeled it. You feel? Anyway, comes with the 636cc inline 4. That's why they call it the 636. Here's the thing, Kawasaki doesn't claim a horsepower figure from this bike online. Kawasaki claims 52 foot-pounds of torque, but doesn't show a horsepower figure. However, Fast Bike Magazine's dynoed a stock one, which made just around 115 wheel horsepower. 115 wheel horsepower, bone stock. That is incredible from a stock 600. To give you a comparison, the 2019 Gixxer 600 comes with about 104 crank horsepower. I'll let you Google why that's important. So yeah, it's got plenty of power. I am incredibly impressed to see 600cc sport bikes making this kind of power. Now, yeah, it is still a 600cc sport bike, so you kind of have to stay in the RPM range to keep it up, It doesn't fall on its face like most 600cc sport bikes do in like the down low RPM, but it's definitely still rev happy. You have to keep it higher in the RPMs to get your power out of it. But man, once you start hitting that like 10K range, the thing pulls. God, this thing rips for a 600. I think honestly with a tune, a full exhaust, and maybe a sprocket change, this would be an insane 600. Even in its stock form, I was still able to get it up in second, no problem. And there's no doubt in my mind that it'll get up in third with just a little bit more bounce. I just wasn't feeling too adventurous since this is not my bike. So power, got plenty of it. Let's talk about how it feels. First thing I noticed about this bike is how narrow it felt. I'm not joking. It genuinely felt like I was riding like a 300cc sport bike. With the sharp downward angle of the front end and the light nimbleness of the turning, it honestly felt like I was riding a very fast version of a 300. It put up zero fights in the turns, leaned over really easy, and felt light as a feather during the whole process. It was a very strange feeling that I haven't gotten since riding an older generation Gixxer. So as far as handling is concerned, not only does it handle the power well, but it handles the turns excellent. And I feel like a very experienced rider would absolutely love this bike. Someone who's looking to evolve their track days and take it a little bit more serious, I feel like this would be an excellent bike to do so. Which is almost kind of a shame because it's such a beautiful bike. I'd hate to see this thing get turned into just a dedicated track bike. Between the paint scheme and like the lovely body lines, it would be a shame to cover this thing in tape and beat it around a track all day long. But that's what the bike was built to do. But there's one negative I have to talk about, and it is the riding position. 600s tend to sit more aggressively than 1000s. I am not a big guy. 5'8", not big, not really fat, pretty average. And my riding position was pretty uncomfortable on this bike. It's a very aggressive riding position. Very hunched over, my knees were often touching my elbows, which I do see in 600s more often. And I think if anybody's approaching that 6 foot mark as far as height, this bike would almost be considered out of the question just because of how aggressive you sit.
Get a sledgehammer, beat that tank in, let's make it a stock bike, yo.
And here's the thing, when I factor in the enjoyability and the usability of a bike, I do factor in comfort because that is a particular big deal for me. Some people aren't like that at all. They don't give a shit. They'll ride the most uncomfortable thing in the world just cause. That's not me. That is a huge negative factor for me. And it's something that I have to take very seriously when considering this bike. I've never really scaled anything on these tests before, but for comfortability, it gets like a 5 out of 10. I'll tell you what though, having this bike this light, this flickable with this much power, it inspires an unreasonable amount of confidence. Leaning into turns feels excellent. Powering through them and then out of them also feels perfect. And the whole time I was riding this bike, I just kept thinking about how much a professional rider could do with this kind of bike. This bike has so much more potential. Like give it a set of really sticky tires, maybe do like a +1, -2, full exhaust, Power Commander 5 and tune, and this bike would be a screamer. I think the problem is that this bike made me want to ride aggressive. I was constantly like, go, I gotta freaking rev this baby out. But seriously, you combine that power and that agility, I sincerely believe that this bike is one of the most capable 600cc sport bikes available for sale right now. And while I'm not directly on the market for another sport bike right now, I think it would be very hard for me to convince myself that this wasn't the perfect bike. It's fast, it's nimble, it's light, however, it is still pretty basic. Dashboard isn't anything special. The new Yamahas and Hondas, and even the new Suzukis have this really nice dash, this new display that shows you all this cool information, beautifully lit, probably costs a fortune. And this bike doesn't have any of it. It is a super basic dash. You do have like power modes and traction control modes and all this other good stuff. I didn't really fool with it too much. Pretty complicated looking, and I'm kind of dumb. But I kind of like that about this bike. You can get it in regular or ABS KRT, whatever modes you want, but this bike feels like a very refined version of the previous generation 636 bikes. It still has that same feeling of absurd power from a 600 while still maintaining that light nimbleness of a smaller bike. And truly, if you're looking for an aggressive 600cc sport bike to ride around daily or really challenge yourself in some of the twisties, I think this would make an excellent bike, and it's something that I would highly consider before purchasing another sport bike for myself. And if you're interested in this one, or any motorcycle for that matter, you can find them at Wow Motorcycles, who were nice enough to let me borrow this excellent and gorgeous and mint bike and have me do a bunch of bad wheelies on it. So thank you to Wow Motorcycles. They have over 600 motorcycles on hand at all times. They're located in Marietta, Georgia, and they will ship worldwide. Make sure to check them out. Let them know that Dan sent you. They'll be really happy about that. They'll greet you with a smile, and they'll tell you that they love you and probably give you a kiss on the cheek. And yeah, thanks for watching. Would you like to make lo-fi? Hip-hop? What about Slavic bass? What about Slavic bass? What about Slavic bass? What about bass Slavic bass? What about epic hearts? What about epic Slavic hard bass? What about epic Slavic hard bass? What about epic Harvick slug bass? Fuck. What about epic? What about epic Harvick? What about epic Slavic hard bass? What about epic Harvick slug bass? What about epic Slavic hard bass? What about Slavic hard bass? What about Slavic hard bass? That's good. That was a good one right there. And even Slavic bass, Slavic hard bass. Transform party into real rave by connecting sound to the speakers and mixing few beats.